Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to another Mixed Media Mayhem, which means it is Friday, and it's one of my favorite days because we get to create all kinds of crazy stuff with mixed media. We are scrap lifting Rebecca Moore this week, and it's the last Friday of the month, so anyone can play along. And if you're not part of the Facebook group for Mixed Media Mayhem, you can go and check that out. Links will be down below, and then you would get the inspiration for the last Friday of the month ahead of time. So I started out with some white paper. It's just white cardstock, and I am adding some different things, some media gloss in cheddar, some aged mahogany and villainous potion oxide spray. And I know I wrote them all down below because there are a ton of inks that I use this time, you guys. So media gloss in tangerine. Using basically offcuts of paper. That's why it's cut into 3 sections. It's not because I'm doing anything fabulous with 3 strips of paper or anything. But I wasn't really sure that I liked it with the orange and the purple, so I decided to also do it in green. I just flipped the paper over and did the back side because I was like, hey, you know, it's only paper. If it doesn't work out, I will just grab another sheet. So I'm using some chopped pesto, some Dina Wakley media gloss in aloe and in fir and in sage. The chopped pesto was a Dylusions spray, as is this fresh lime, to give it a little bit of brightness. While I'm doing this, I'm thinking I want some light areas and some dark areas because I want variation in my leaves that I'm going to be cutting. That's some shimmer spray in cut grass and some shimmer spray in island parrot. And I'm just tapping that off over the mixed media. That was distressed oxide in aged mahogany, just to give some reddish brown. This is going to be a fall layout, so I don't want bright red, but I want something that's kind of more in the brown area. And some shimmer spray in melted chocolate. That's a Dylusions, and in desert sand. So I'm trying to pull in some browns and some golds to make it a little bit more like fallish leaves, although I am doing this in green. I added some Dina Wakley media gloss in cheddar again, just to bring in a little bit of orange. And so then I went and I cut all of these leaves out of a bunch of different leaf dyes. The ones that I have links for, I will put down below for you. I know I don't have links for every single one, but the ones that I do have, I will include below. The one that I'm cutting right there is from Altenew. That's from one of their tropical, I think it's the tropical leaf dye set. They have some really beautiful leaf dyes. This one is from Spellbinders, but it's really old, or the gold one that's sitting on the, or coppery looking one that's sitting on the table there. It's from Spellbinders, but it's really old. Again, this one is from Altenew. I'm going to speed this up quite a bit, and I don't make you sit through the entire process of cutting leaves because to cut an entire sheet of paper's worth of leaves took me quite a bit of time. And so I don't make you sit through all of it. And at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to use the green side of the leaves because I'm really liking the way that they came out. And I am going to show you kind of a sampling of what it would have looked like in green and what it would have looked like in the flip side, because I really couldn't decide. So I kind of laid out my leaves in that corner pattern in both colors just to try it out and see which one I liked better. So I'm not going to spoil it for you. You're going to have to wait and see which color I end up using. But I did try it in both colors. And remember, the back side is the orange and purples. And so I just basically flipped them over and it wasn't a big deal. I am just using my little Tim Holtz Sidekick to run most of those through. But these larger leaves, I ended up having to pull out the Tangerine machine, which is from Tonic. It works just like a Big Shot or any of the other cutting machines, only it has a wider platform. I think it's like, I want to say it's 7.5 or 8 inches wide. And so that is very handy when you have really large dies or you have a piece of paper that you don't want to have to cut down. So the larger dies I had to put through there, and then I thought I'll just leave it out and run multiple dies through at one time rather than doing one at a time through the little tiny Sidekick. So I started putting like 2 or 3 leaves on at a time. I could have done more, but I was afraid when I tried to put it through the machine that they would shift and then the die would not be on the paper and I would have just cut like a partial portion of the paper. So I didn't want to get too crazy with it. It can be a little bit harder to manage when you try to put like 6 or 7 or 8 dies on there. especially when they're small dies, they, like I said, they tend to shift around a little bit. I have a little purple pokey tool that I'm using to poke those out. That is actually a tool that is used for quilting, and my friend Janie turned me onto it, and I just love it. It works so well. It's got a blunt end, but it is very it's a very thin piece of metal. Like, it can go inside of a fine line applicator to kind of clean it out. So it works great, but it does have a blunt end, and it's a little bit flexible. So here I'm just kind of playing with the leaves. I did wait for everything to dry, obviously, before I ran them through there. Playing with the leaves, trying to figure out which way I like it. And there it is with both. So I'm showing you a close-up. I really like it in the green, but it looked really Christmassy to me, and I think part of that is the foliage that I chose. And so here it is in the fall colors, and I liked that so much better that I decided to go ahead and go with the fall colors. So my next task was to go ahead and create the box that Rebecca has on there. She's got like a stitched box, and my sewing machine is still out of commission, so I'm not stitching anything. But what I decided to do was to use my T-square ruler. I lined up the edge of the top of the T with the bottom of the paper, and then I just drew a line from 3 inches to 9 inches, which would give me a good 3-inch border all the way around. And this might be a little bit smaller than what she has, but it ended up working out, so I just decided to go with it. I did pull out my stitch stamps to give a little bit of a stitched look. I don't think you even see that at all when I'm all like completely done with the layout, but I know she has some stitched stuff because I can see a little bit peeking out on hers, and that's one reason I think her squares might, or her square might be a little bit larger than mine, which, you know, it is what it is. So it doesn't have to be an exact lift. You're supposed to just be getting some inspiration off of it. And I was definitely inspired to do something similar, although I did not obviously keep mine monochromatic like she did. I do love the monochromatic look, and I really do enjoy doing monochromatic layouts, but because the photo that I'm using is of Noah, he's like, we have this hill in the front of our yard that is underneath one of our redwood trees, and I was in the process of hanging bats in the redwood tree for Halloween when he was up there, and he's got his little hoodie on that looks like a bat. When he lifts his arms up, it's got like wings, and it's got like the 2 little vampire bat like teeth on the hood there, as you can see. So I did turn my photograph black and white for this purpose, just as she has in her layout. And then I am using some Catherine Pooler ink in Sugar Lavender, and then I'm going to pull out the shea butter and add a little bit more. I'm trying to be cautious of not like just putting it right on top of the purple, because that'll give it more of a brown look, but I do want some of the yellow to peek out. And the stamps that I'm using are old, close to my heart, like a mixed media or textured background stamp. Pretty much any stamp would work for this because it's just splotchy. Just flip your stamp backwards if it's an acrylic stamp, just to get some blotches on there. I could have also just used my paintbrush, but I decided to I wanted more depth to the color, so I decided to stamp some of it. And at the end of the day, not much of this even shows. It really just more or less shows where the splatters are, and then I am going to put some of that Sugar Lavender kind of peeking out like I did with the yellow with the paintbrush. But then by that point it is a lot less purple. It looks like more like a pinkish purple. So lots of splatter. She's got lots of splatter on hers, so I'm doing lots of splatter on mine. I am using Sugar Lavender again, the shea butter. I am also using some Media Gloss and Blackberry. I'm using some Catherine Pooler in Royal Treatment, some Carved Pumpkin Distress ink to bring in some of the oranges. So basically all of the colors that I used for the mixed media leaves, I am bringing in more of those. That was Tangerine Media Gloss. And then I'm going to start building up my leaf clusters. I'm trying to get those laid out. While I work on that, don't forget to go and check out everyone else who is playing along. And they are all listed down below. And again, don't forget to check out the Facebook group if you're not part of that, and that link is down below for you as well. We do have a core group that plays along every Friday, and we do more of a recipe style versus a lift, and the last Friday of the month is a lift. So if you are interested in playing along with Mixed Media Mayhem and lifting somebody, like I said, check out the Facebook group, and the layout for next month will be posted early so that you have plenty of time to work on it. So here is where I decided to add some more of the sugar lavender ink, applying it with my paintbrush, so it is going on a lot lighter. And I did that mostly because I could tell most of my mixed media is getting covered up with these leaves, but you know, you still get a little tiny bit of it peeking out, and just by adding some of the lighter color, it works just fine. I am going to end up using that acrylic piece that says Boo. Unfortunately, I broke it while I was it was sitting there. I picked it up to try it out once, and one of the little curly cues broke off, but I do end up being able to kind of put it back together by when I glue it down. So and that is from Redefined Creative. It's been in my stash for, I don't know, 2 years maybe, and so I'm really happy to get it onto a page. And then I am going to back Noah's photo with a piece of white cardstock. It's the 4.5 by 6.5 inch photo mats that you can get at Hobby Lobby. And then I just used a little bit more of my sugared lavender ink and put a couple of coats on it all the way around to create faux cardstock, basically, because I don't really keep a lot of cardstock. Probably 90% of the cardstock is at my mom's house next door, which I would have to run over there and get it. But I don't even stock it up, like restock it when I run out of a color, unless it's something for a project that I need. The only cardstock I really keep at my house is black and white and craft. So this works really well for me because I don't really use cardstock very often. So some of these leaves needed a little bit of color variation in them because when they were layered up, it was starting to look kind of like a blob because some of the colors were so similar layer on layer. So I pulled out some of the Nuvo Embellishment Mousse, and I am just putting some of that on with my fingers. I'm using this one that's called Red Leather to kind of bring in some more of the red and reddish fall colors. And I will be adding some in it's like a pinkish purple color. I think it's called something lilac. It'll pop up on the screen anyway. I've already input those on the screen. So and then I end up using one that's mother of pearl just to kind of give it a little bit of a pearlish sheen onto a couple of the leaves to lighten them up a bit because I don't want them to look really flat. Okay, so here it is. It's English Heather. I was totally wrong that it was lilac, but anyway. I did find that a lot of my Nuvo Mousse had dried up, so I actually threw away probably 4 or 5 of them because they were so dried out. I am actually glad to get them out of my stash if they're not useful anymore, so that was kind of good to go and check out. But it's definitely not a product that I use as much as I use some of my other products, like my mists I use so frequently, and same with my ink pads. That the mousse kind of gets like left by the wayside. I don't have a ton of it anyway. I don't know. I maybe have 12 jars. I don't know. Is that a ton? So it was definitely good to get rid of a few of the ones that were no longer useful. So I'm just applying some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to all of these leaves to hold everything together. And that works perfectly for this process. I have not had any trouble with this glue. It sticks really well. I do end up using a different glue for the acrylic. Normally I use glue dots or Zotz Bling, but because the letters are so thin and I wanted them to stick down in more than one spot because they are going on top of a pile of leaves that are not completely fastened down. Like when I put the leaves down, I really just attach, you know, the end of the leaf that's getting tucked in. The other end of the leaf, I let it have the freedom to have texture and lift off the page a little bit. So that piece that says Boo, I want to make sure that it is adhered down really well. And I will be using some crystal lacquer for that. It's what I used to use all the time before I found Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I just use it in my fine line applicator. I did end up having to clean my fine line applicator because it had been so long since I had used it that it was a little bit clogged up. But not, I mean, glue would still come out, but I didn't want to like press so hard that all of a sudden I got a big squirt of glue. So I took the time to clean it out before I adhered that acrylic piece down. So just adding a little bit more of the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. The Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. One thing I do like about this is that it gives a little bit of a metallic sheen, which makes some of these leaves not so flat looking, because most of the mists that I applied were either a gloss or a flat, but nothing that had like a metallic look except for the splatters. So it was a good way to add you know, just another texture to this particular layout. So I'm really liking the way that it's coming together, and I'm just going to tuck in the last few little leaves here. It kind of looks weird having that one leaf to the left of the photo, but I am going to be putting a little bit of embellishments down in that area so that little leaf won't look like it's sticking out so far all by itself. Here's my fine line applicator with the crystal lacquer in it. It does dry shiny, so I want to make sure that I don't put too much because it would have a gloss like bleeding out from underneath the word. So I'm being cautious of that. And yeah, as you saw, I had to reattach that curly Q. I just have to get it lined up appropriately so it doesn't look like it's at a very strange angle. I did go through my bin of purple items, and I am adding, I pulled out some embellishments that I thought would work. And so I am going to add some foam under my photo, and then I'm going to start tucking in a couple of embellishments. I don't go to town with the embellishments on this one. I kind of let things speak for themselves because I thought the leaves were so beautiful. I didn't want to really cover up a whole lot. And there's not really a ton to say on this layout. I will add a little bit of journaling just below the photo, but I don't really have a whole lot more to say. It's just a really cute photo of him being precious. And so I wanted to capture that, and I really just like those piles of fall leaves. I didn't want to add a lot of embellishments to cover all of that up. I do have this little chipboard piece. I believe it says sweet on it, and I'm just going to tag that in there to the onto the photo. And then I have these little ghosts that came with that Boo acrylic piece, and I'm going to use the same crystal lacquer to adhere those down, mainly because one of them is up on top of leaves. So again, I want to make sure it has good coverage behind it. So MK chose the inspiration for this month's scrap lift, and each month we go in a rotation, so it'll be somebody else choosing next month's inspiration. So you'll see all kinds of different things, and also we go in a rotation with regard to our recipe that we use for each week, each of the other weeks that we are doing Mixed Media Mayhem. So it's kind of like a grab 5, but we're grabbing maybe 2 or 3 items or 4 items, which is very much like a recipe challenge. So I did add some black Dylusions just to give a little bit more depth and to bring in a little bit more black, because I've got the black in the upper right hand corner, but he does have a black sweatshirt on, so it goes fine with it. And then you can still see a little bit of the black square, not a ton of it, but just a little bit. And that is it. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. If you have questions or comments, as always, leave those down below. I'm always happy to answer those. It does take me a little bit of time to get back to you, but I will respond. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe as well. I will also put a link to my own Facebook group down below if you're interested in joining me over there. See you guys again soon with another video. Bye-bye.